So, with that said, I'm going to bring up our first panel of the day. It is a senior analyst panel, not a junior. It's senior analyst panel, and they're talking about the NaaS market outlook. So, welcome Ray Chua, who's going to lead us through. Come on up, Ray. All right.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Bright and early. Excellent. Okay. Let's take a seat. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning, and congratulations to all the winners of the NaaS Excellence Award, as Erin said. And remember, if you didn't win, I voted for you, just so you know that. All right. Very good. All right, we're going to start with, as she said, the senior analysts. You can see by the amount of white hair collectively, but and to offset, we have Gorkem. He's trying to get there. He's trying to get senior, but not quite there yet. But we'll get you there. It's a matter of time. All right, we're going to talk about what else, NaaS and Mplify alliances as LSO, federations, and all the important topics that we talked about yesterday. So we're going to break the analyst panel here into sort of two parts. The first 15 minutes, we're going to do what analysts always do, talk about the market and projections and TAM and SAM and SOM and all those cool things that some of you saw yesterday. You saw slides using stats from some of the prestigious analysts here on the panel. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then the second part will reflect on what we learned yesterday, what we saw, anything that caught the analysts' eyes, and then maybe what they hope to see today from the rest of the presentation. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is very quickly, I don't think they need much introductions. I'm just going to thank them for being on the panel here very quickly and names and companies, and then we'll go from there. So on my left, I have Brian Washburn, Chief Analyst from Omdia. I have Ghassan Abdo, VP of Research Worldwide Telecommunications IDC. We have Steve Thomas from Frost & Sullivan, and Gorkem Yigit, who is becoming a senior analyst soon at Analysys Mason. So let's get started. State of the market. Let's talk about one of the formerly favorite topics, SD-WAN, and then a current favorite topic, SASE. What's the state of the market today with SD-WAN and SASE is still certainly a hot topic. And let me ask Ghassan, who actually did a MarketScape about this. What are the recent SD-WAN MarketScape findings? And then what can you say about SASE?
Great. First of all, good morning. My first Mplify event. Lovely, rich of data, information and data, so great. Yeah, so when I joined IDC about 7 years ago, one of my first topics I took was SD-WAN. I'm doing other domains as well. It's been a busy last 6 months. We published in September a managed SD-WAN MarketScape, invited 17 global providers, include many of the telcos that are available here today. And also we invited, and we published in October, a managed SASE MarketScape as well with 15 providers. Quite interesting. We did an SSE one, that's a security team. I'm not going to talk about it, published by my colleagues as well. So we have learned a few things from it. During the process, besides the briefings with the service providers, we spoke with about 40 enterprises as well. Generally speaking, CIOs, CTOs, those level of executives. One, the uptake for SD-WAN is still very, very healthy. I mean, I would characterize it at 20% growth on an annual basis, which is good news because network transformation is still driving that, whether the need for cloud adoption, higher bandwidth, flexibility, all of these good things that come with SD-WAN. Cost is not a major consideration, by the way, but definitely it can give you better bandwidth, may drive some cost. Obviously, if it does, it's great. One thing that we found that's also quite interesting is incumbency is so important, meaning existing relationship with telcos do matter. It do matter that they have a good network, reliability, and all of these good features do matter. So incumbency does provide some advantages here. Obviously, the focus of global telcos is still on large enterprises and MNCs. I would say 80% of the revenue seems to be dominated in that upper echelon of the market or segments of the market. Mid-market SMB is still trailing. A big opportunity for those that want to tackle it. A couple of them have done some good stuff, like AT&T, Telefonica, I would say. have done a good job in that space, but the rest is still dominated in the large part. So SD-WAN, very healthy. When we look at the SASE, it's a little bit of a different story. Still dominated from a SASE perspective with the demand for network transformation. So although CISOs may think security is what's driving SASE adoption, in reality, it's still the networking. It's a very fragmented market. And what do I mean by fragmented market? If you look at SASE, it was supposed to reduce the friction between networking and security, both across all processes, buying, deployment, and operation. That's the goal. From a purchase perspective, we see more integration and more conversions. That's happening. Deployment is a bit different. Operation, forget it. It's still separate. When I've spoken with enterprises, asked the question, so how do you buy your SD-WAN? How do you buy your SASE? SD-WAN, I want it fully outsourced. That's the dominant model today. A little bit of co-management, mostly fully outsourced. When it comes, of course, SD-WAN by implication includes some firewall, and in many cases, a Zscaler implementation, a secure cloud access. When it comes to the rest of the security portfolio within the context of SASE, many of them, to our surprise, still like to buy it purchased separately, like to deploy it separately, and operate separately. So the transformational aspect of SASE, it's still pending. But that's what we learned. We're hoping that it will move forward and become a more integrated process over time, because it does have implication on NaaS as well, because these are underlying technologies for NaaS. That's what we learned.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very, very useful observations, especially in the SASE. And again, Gartner is not here to defend itself, but the question obviously is, was SASE the right thing to do? Throw everything in the kitchen and the kitchen sink at it's just one category, right? Yeah. Unclear, but certainly is fragmented. All right, let's move on from SD-WAN and SASE, which is sort of the mainstay and money making and more understood, to something that we heard a lot about yesterday. And again, there's no escape. Every conference is an AI conference. We know that now, right? It's clear. So let's talk about AI. And certainly, AI and networking, as we learned yesterday, is important, and AI features a lot in the vision for Mplify Alliance going forward, right? It's a key part of that. Now, I noticed the Omdia logo was on some of the slides yesterday, and the information was, in fact, used to bolster the fact that networking was important for AI. So let's talk to Brian and see what were the findings around AI and networking, importance of that, requirements, and so on.
Okay, well, thanks, Roy. And I won't bore you with the methodology for the next 20 minutes, but we've been doing tracking AI and its impacts on network traffic for more than 2 years now through interviews with service providers, with enterprises, and numerous surveys, just to understand what's happening from the application space on down through to the requirements by the different areas of different communities. And what we find is that there's a lot of different stories when we talk about the AI story for network requirements. There's the obvious one here that we've all seen about hyperscalers and hyperscaler requirements. And we've actually had numerous service providers who've talked to us about saying, well, if they can, they'll get conduit, that is the they being hyperscalers and superscalers. If they can't get that, they'll take dark fiber. If they can't get that, they'll maybe go to wavelength. But there is a hunger for bandwidth by the AI industry that we've all seen. And it's been the industry asking for quotes like, can you give us 100 gigabit waves, and can you prepare for that sort of a requirement in the future? So that's one part, but the other part then is what's the user community, that is enterprises in particular, were very interested in what they're doing with AI. And here we're still sort of seeing there's a lot of good use cases, but there's sort of this bifurcation of some enterprises really get it, and they're doing a lot of implementation and doing some very sophisticated things, and then others are kind of like, yeah, we're aware it's in the business someplace, and some of our suppliers are handing us AI on a silver platter, so technically, yes, we use it, but it's only like a couple % of the overall traffic today. Fast growing, lots of ambition. The ROI cases are proving out in counterpoint to the MIT study that some of you folks might have seen, because a lot of AI isn't this speculative generative AI, but it's predictive AI, it's AI ops, it's AI for analytics, it's some original shoots for agentic AI. But anyway, that's kind of the big picture of what we're seeing. And so we're looking at kind of stages of traffic growth and adoption where we have conventional traffic growing slowly but steadily, this kind of hybrid AI, non-AI traffic growing more quickly, and then this net new stuff that's actually doubling every year.
Excellent. So that very good observations. And so what we need is more AI video slop to drive the AI utilization of networks, right, Brian? Yeah, we all should do that. So open your Sora apps and just keep streaming, and everyone be happy, especially the network providers. All right, very good. So let's move on from AI to NaaS. We're not going to try to define NaaS. We're just going to pretend that there is, in fact, some kind of NaaS market thing, or is there, right? So let me, Steve looks perplexed. Maybe start, what's the NaaS market revenue model, adoption characteristics? Feel free to riff on NaaS.
No, sure. So I actually don't see NaaS as a particular total addressable market, that type of stuff, being markets incorrect, trying to find out what the real market size is. It's as you guys are developing these things, it's a way to interact with customers to enhance the life cycle of your telecom services. I think eventually everything will be in a NaaS-like model, easy button, activities, observability, integrating with APIs and, text alerts, for interesting things that happen, and then it's eyes on glass for the observability of your end-to-end services. So although some analysts might try to put a market cap on network as a service, but I see it much more as a go-to-market strategy, a business model that basically whatever network services addressable market is will eventually be the NaaS market anyway.
Oh, excellent. So anyone who wants a contrarian view, you go to Steve Thomas or Frost & Sullivan. So now, Gorkem looked very skeptical when Steve was speaking. Right? Let's go to Gorkem for maybe, I'm guessing, a different take.
Yes, because we sized the markets and also we created a forecast as well. And I guess the way we did it, because we are seeing operators launching new platforms, and they're always branded like NaaS, on demand, so they're distinct from the legacy traditional services. So what we are looking at is those new platforms, right? And what we are estimating today around $3.5 billion.
$3.5 billion.
And it's going to go up to $15 billion by 2029. And of course, let's put that in a context, right? Because they're not really big money. Because if you consider just the connectivity piece for operators, today it's around 2 to 3% of enterprise connectivity revenue. Right. And even in 2029, we are looking at like 8 to 10% kind of range. But what is really important here is, first of all, the rate of change, because we are seeing operators migrating their customers to more and more NaaS platforms. And so lots of it is going to be substitutional. So when we talk about NaaS, it's not entirely new revenue. Yeah. So that is very, very important, especially, like we are looking at easily 60 to 70% is substitutional. But having said that, there are new opportunities for new money because, first of all, cloud connectivity and multi-cloud connectivity is a new area. It's not something that was properly addressed with the legacy services. And now with the AI, especially, we are seeing a proliferation of multi-cloud, because before it was just AWS, GCP, Microsoft, but now we are talking about neoclouds. And we identified around 150 neoclouds in the market, and it's growing. So that is going to drive new revenue, and also we are looking at marketplaces and adjacent services that operators bundle with NaaS. So it's not just pure connectivity, but security, IoT, voice, whatever, right? So that is the kind of the trend we are seeing in the markets.
That's fair, and in what you said, in fact, it's not that different from what Steve said in terms of it's a reclassification of some of the revenues based on the business model, in essence, right? So Steve is right and you are right. I was hoping for a cage match, right? 2 analysts enter and only one leaves, but But
We're always right. That's
yeah. All analysts are always right. By definition, as an analyst, you're always right. Very good. Excellent. All right, so with those market sizes and market landscapes sort of out of the way, let's reflect on yesterday. I know everyone has reflections. You're in the room for different presentations yesterday, different parts of the day, because I know everyone had meetings, and so not everyone was in the room all the time, but hopefully, between the four of you, we'll get some shared experiences. So let's talk about some of the key themes that at least I saw yesterday when I was in the room. I'll pretend I was in the room. Anyhow, which is, the NaaS sort of vision alignment, Mplify's vision for NaaS for AI. You saw Pascal's slide. Probably everyone saw Pascal's slide around some of those elements. Any thoughts around some of those initiatives, and does that match what you think the market is looking for? And is Pascal in the room? No, it's okay. So you can say whatever you want.
We're not going to challenge Pascal here.
No one should challenge Pascal.
I mean, directionally, quite frankly, the vision is right. This is where things are heading. One of the things that I observed, particularly about NaaS also, is we did do a study on it about a couple of years ago and interviewed in excess of 1,000 enterprises. Yes, everybody wants flexibility. Everybody wants cloud consumption model. One of the areas that they strongly identified is integration with existing IT processes as business processes. This is a theme that did not emerge yet. I think it's a theme that we need to reflect on, because the success of all of these initiatives, whether it's AI related, whether it's NaaS related, really needs AI ops, what Nabil talked about yesterday as well, really needs to deal with the integration with existing processes. And that's what enterprises are looking for. They're not looking for silos again.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. The automation, the integration, the LSO APIs is exposed to, or equivalent is exposed to the enterprises. That integration is important, and that's still in process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Brian?
Well, one of the things that I found very interesting is the whole concept of this agentic AI that is going to be going to the network to request network resources. And while talking to the enterprise side, multi-domain agentic AI isn't really a common thing yet. I mean, we're seeing agentic AI more like contained in the walled garden, like Salesforce.com, Einstein. You can have agents that are doing very clever things inside that SaaS environment. But one of the things that I've been looking at for a long time now is that enterprises kind of desperately need some sort of a way to merge their compute performance resources with their network performance resources. And that calls for this sort of Uber orchestration, and we don't really have something that can do that comprehensively yet. So it just kind of got me thinking that maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, that this monolithic orchestration requirement maybe isn't monolithic at all. It's a series of agents that need to work inside the operator, and then a series of agents that work outside the operator, and there's got to be some sort of communications interfaces between the two, but there's lots of little pieces, parts, like almost like microservices that are allocating resources as opposed to this big top-down, here are my resources, everything is managed, and we're going to, have kind of the king set the rules, that sort of a top-down thinking.
That's going to be interesting. I think we'll see how that plays out with micro agents. How's that? But I think there is still no clarity in terms of whether it looks like a multi-domain service orchestration architecture, top-down, right, and then the agents below, basically subservient to the agents on top, yeah. Or is it a collection of agents in the marketplace where they interact and the outcome magically occurs, right? Exactly. I would say the invisible hand of agents, as it were, right? But we'll see how that plays out. And interesting. Any other thoughts around that before I move on to the next sort of thing that caught my eye yesterday? Gorkem? Or?
I can just chip in. I think it's the right direction, definitely. And, maybe I was wondering, maybe we should look at it, we should just flip the narrative as well, because it was NaaS for AI, automation for AI, cybersecurity for AI. But how about AI for NaaS, AI for automation, AI for cybersecurity, right? Yes, they're coupled and intertwined in a lot of cases, but I kind of feel like, it's Mplify and GNE. We need to talk a bit more about the deeper layers of this automation and how AI is going to, help with that ambitions of NaaS, right? How it becomes more and more enabling the future, not just at the business and service layer, but I think it needs to go down a little bit more on the network, and that's what's happening in AI and the networks right now.
I think that's fair. So it sounds like at least even Steve's view is the vision for Mplify Alliance going forward seems aligned with what you're seeing in the marketplace for the most part, right?
Yeah, no, I think just a couple of points there. I was encouraged when Verizon, Jeff Hulsey, said he's got 80% of his orders going through an automated process. And so starting with the NaaS, it's an orchestration model. And so success in the wholesale market is, ordering between each other. You're going to iron out, it's a, few customers, high volume, transactional base, so it's perfect for automation as well. And then that'll spill over into the enterprises and some of the things that Ghassan was mentioning about integration. I think a lot of the platform operators now are working on the ITSM integration so that you can have that true, when workloads increase and decrease and the neo clouds and the public clouds and the private clouds and et cetera, everything can be orchestrated, through a portal or API experience. And I think that the integration that a lot of the client operators are doing with like ServiceNow and their platforms will really make that experience come to life. So I know they're working on it now. So it's definitely just to highlight they're on the right path for sure.
Very good. So looks like Mplify Alliance as if they were on AGT or BGT, Analyst Got Talent, it would be basically 4 yeses, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, yeah, pretty good. Congratulations. Danielle laughing. See, now co-CEO's happy. I think we're good. We've done our job. All right, so one other thing. The other thing was AI infrastructure. I'm going to ask a question before we talk about Tuesday's things. We saw the build out. We saw the slides from all the different, doesn't matter which service provider you are, you have AI workloads, you have AI demand, everyone's seeing it, everyone's happy, right? You get a wavelength, you get a wavelength, everyone gets a wavelength, right? And if you don't have wavelengths, what would you like? Would you like MPLS? Would you like dark fiber? We got it all. Some of the senior analysts may have been here, right? Remember 99, 2000, right? The good thing is fiber that goes in the ground can last 20, 30 years, right? So you put it in, a little premature, you wait long enough, there's demand again, like now. Maybe GPUs are not quite that long lasting, potentially. Data centers maybe, power systems maybe, right? So what's your thought around all this AI infrastructure build out, right? Any takes on that, based on your experiences in the field for many, many years? And
yeah, I can reflect on it, not necessarily in terms of decentralized cloud deployment.
Sure.
I think a lot of money is going there. I was listening to AMD CEO this morning, talked about 30+% growth in her business because there's a lot of demand for infrastructure. I'm more, I wouldn't say concerned, but I'm kind of reflecting on how do we deploy AI infrastructure at the edge, sure, and be able to deal with performance issues, power supply issues, because this is a discussion in the industry. I was at the Cloudflare event 3 weeks ago in Vegas. It's a lot of discussion. Should we wait for lower cost, lower supply, power demanding infrastructure that we can do it at the edge, assuming that's where we're going to do a lot of inferencing, and hopefully inferencing will require less. The other part of it, what is the impact on traffic longer term, on the WAN in particular? Today, I don't think we've seen that impact. I think the suggestion yesterday that the impact on the mobile infrastructure is 0.1%. I do align with that view, but we still don't know what is the longer term impact depending on the type of use cases. I think the edge is going to be an interesting piece that we need to kind of keep an eye on.
Any other thoughts in terms of all the infrastructure we're putting in and building? And
yeah, I think there will eventually, just like we had a little bit of a bubble there, there's definitely not going to be, everyone's going to survive all these new neo clouds for sure. There's going to be the top three, much like cloud was, top 3 or 4 players made a great deal of new innovation in that space. I think as the business cases iron out, the classic MIT study of 95% of the ROI ideas for AI fail. And then we see that too with we have an AI survey that we did not too long ago at Frost, and like 84% of the enterprises are still in experimental mode. So it's clearly, there has to be, and then GPUs are coming out faster and faster. So it's a heavy CapEx, low uncertainty, that's just the ripe environment to, be ready. But, I would encourage GPU as a service to be certainly ready and a fast follower, but no, I wouldn't overbuild. I'd overbuild fiber, I wouldn't overbuild GPU.
Yeah, fiber lasts a long time. GPUs don't last so long.
But yeah, but the fiber thing about fiber, there is like the stuff that was in the ground 30 years ago, it's still, you got your 4-inch conduit, but there's like 100 strands there or whatever. Now you can throw thousands of it.
That's true.
Everything propagates faster, the glass is cleaner, so there is some technology advances in the fiber that's going to be beneficial for these, people ordering, hundreds of dark fibers between data centers for the training models.
Yep, I think that's fair. Gorkem.
Yeah, I think the risk is we are focusing too much on the current generation of transformers, right? Because they're really GPU hungry and they require, lots of, it almost pretty much like brute force.
Yes.
Just keep throwing GPUs, right? And what if the paradigm changes, right? We come up with better transformers or better approaches and architectures.
Yep.
And actually, we are seeing this from some of the, in China, for example, they're focusing on like neuromorphic kind of architectures, and that's not that GPU hungry. So I guess just there needs to be a bit more balance in the Western world rather than just, keep spending money on NVIDIA, but I guess that's kind of the risk.
Brute force, right? Just more data, more compute, and then we forget that there's better algorithms as well. Actually, we don't forget, but I think the emphasis is a little different because China's more resource constrained to a certain extent on the compute side, so they spend more time on the algorithms. But you're absolutely right? There are other architectures, state-space architectures, not just transformer architectures, and some of the new ones that we saw, company called Sapient Intelligence, that's actually a Chinese company based in Singapore, had a hierarchical reasoning model that then Samsung researchers in Europe actually improve on the tiny reasoning model. And it shows that for certain tasks, at a small fraction of the size of existing models, it performs just as well. So you're absolutely right. I think we shouldn't be blind. We shouldn't be blind to the fact that there are other ways to do it,
Exactly.
and just keep throwing money and resources at the problem, which we're good at, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, that's the aspect too that I was going to get to. That it's too early in the morning. Had too many drinks last night. I forgot to say a point, but it's just like the analogy is in the cloud, the public cloud. It became very expensive to egress. Yeah. Right now, the AI cost models are extremely expensive because it's a spray and pray, high intensity approach to things. So people are experimenting because the costs are high for all the tokenization of things, like pay per token. So the small language models and smaller domain-specific databases is also another way to combat those.
Agreed.
And smarter prompt engineering and that type of thing. That's going to be, hopefully the more edge compute, GPU as a service type thing. But it's just going to be smaller specific use cases to generate the speed and efficiency of getting the results back with the highest level of predictability.
Agreed. All right, good. So we're near the end of the session. We have about 22 minutes left. So about 30 seconds each. What are you looking forward to hearing today that you didn't hear yesterday? Who's ready? All right, Brian.
Oh.
Go.
Well, the one thing that wasn't mentioned with AI infrastructure, I don't mean to do a jump scare for everyone in the room, but the potential need to rebalance wireless downstream and upstream capacity requirements, which is just, the implications of that are frighteningly huge.
All right, excellent. Ghassan?
To me, interoperability continues to be a challenge across vendor community, across carriers. I think if we can tackle that one, I know Mplify mission is to try to solve this issue, but the reality speaks differently. So to the extent that we can help resolve that friction, I think will be something good. One additional point is this move towards pay-per-use model or cloud consumption kind of contradicts long-term predictability of long-term contracts. So how do we find the right approach where we can convince decision makers that there is potentially a balance there that can help them drive their business forward?
Hopefully we'll hear more about that today. And then Steve, what do you hear today?
I think the goal here is it's always and. It's never or. You know, you're all within the NaaS platform and the automation. You're going to be constantly adding and subtracting things. But telecom buyers in general want stability. So I agree that not everyone wants a pay-as-you-go, you know, model. Some people will. Some people, they have different use cases. But that the platform, the automation, it should still be focused in on the customer experience, because they do want to have less vendors. They want to master the technology, and they just want to be able to turn stuff up easy. And
Predictable pricing NaaS. All right, welcome.
Well, just quickly add on what just Steve said, maybe just more on that. It's the digital transformation, the wholesale buyers and enterprises need to go through to accelerate NaaS adoption, because I mentioned earlier that NaaS is still struggling to, you know, gain lots of traction, and lots of it comes down to the fact that many companies, they're not ready to consume NaaS. They're not digitally capable, and that comes down to technical problems, because you can't just put some APIs in front of, you know, the legacy systems, processes, people, mindsets, and we're not really talking much about what are the strategies and best practices, you know, to help those not digitally native or capable companies to make that transition to NaaS.
Fair, the transformation stuff, and hopefully we'll cover some of that today. So very good. All right, let's put our hands together and thank the senior analyst panel. Thank you.